I'm joined by President Bola Tinubu's lawyer, Wole Afolabi, for discussion on Atiku Abubakar versus President Tinubu and the facts of the Chicago certificate matter. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Right, so after a protracted legal battle, Chicago State University released President Tinubu's academic records. I'd like you to tell us how it all happened.
Well, a wrong information was planted out there that President Bola Tinubu did not attend Chicago State University. And someone sold that to Waziri Atiku Abubakar. And on that premise, he approached, through his lawyers, the High Court in Chicago, asking that his records be released to him because he had it on good authority that he did not attend the university. At some point, they decided to withdraw the case, and then they went to the federal court, and they sought similar reliefs. And the Chicago State University, CSU, through the registrar, deposed to an affidavit wherein it was stated that not only did the president attend CSU, but he, in fact, graduated with high honors in a very rigorous major, accounting. He was one of their best students, and no wonder he was hired directly out of college. So confronted with this information and being reluctant to beat a retreat, they pivoted and went in the direction of, the certificate that he presented to INEC was forged. Now, the university came out and said, this is their practice. Diplomas are merely ceremonial documents. What is important to them and to many universities in America is the transcript. It's in the transcripts that you see the grades, that you see the courses that they took, and everything related to the student, and all that you need to know about the student, basically. But the diploma is merely ceremonial. It's for the day, that they graduate, and if you need a replacement, you apply for it and you get it. So the university said the practice is, once they give it out, they don't retain copies. So having given out the version that the president submitted to INEC, they did not have it in their possession. Now, at some point, the president requested for a replacement diploma, as some students do. Now, it was prepared, but the president did not go back to pick it up. It was asked of the registrar, why did he not come and pick it up, and or why did he not ask that it should be sent to him? And he correctly answered, why don't you ask him? I'm not in a position to respond to that. So one Mr. Enahoro Iba came from Nigeria and requested that a copy of the certificate be handed, a copy of the president's certificate be handed over to him under a subpoena, which was obtained illegally. He had no rights to do that. What he did was wrong, absolutely wrong, and the university knew that what he did was equally wrong. He had no right to get what he got. Now, especially since the president was not notified. Under FIPA laws, he should have been notified, where he could have asserted his rights to intervene and push back if he wanted to. Now, the university, the only certificate that they had on their file for the president was the one that he did not pick up. The university made a copy of it and made it available to Mr. Enahoro Iba. Mr. Enahoro Iba did a lot of gymnastics with it, went to the federal court in Abuja, or FCTI court, I don't know which one they went to, but went to the court in Abuja, asking that the president should be prosecuted, blah, 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 and a matter that didn't go anywhere predictably. Somewhere along the line, he was in cahoots with the camp of Waziri Abubakar, and he provided it to them. And then, as a late measure, they now adopted that as part of their reply to the petition. It was not part of their petition. They only adopted it at the later stage, which is not allowed under the electoral laws. Now, they now went to the federal court in the U.S. and said, hey, after the school had said, we don't have that he graduated. They now went from that and now said, okay, let us have a copy of what you gave Mr. Enahoro Hiba, which was also produced. Now, Mr. Enahoro Hiba and the legal team of Abubakar Atiku, their belief was that the university only had one certificate for the president, which was the one that was presented to Mr. Hiba. And with that, they now, in their minds, believed that the one that must have been presented to INEC was forged. What they failed to realize was that in America, it's not just one diploma that is issued for all purposes. You can have as many diplomas as you wanted. If you want to apply for it, all you have to do is to pay for it. So, in the university, they only have in their possession the diplomas that were not picked up. Just as in the president's case, there were some other students who applied but did not pick up their diplomas, and these they made available to Waziri Abubakar's lawyers for comparison. And if you look at them, I mean, I think social media is awash with all of these documents. If you take a look at what was issued to the president and some of the samples that the university found, you see similarities. They are very similar. So they're very similar. Honestly, to me, with all sense of responsibility, to me, honestly, this is all what they would call silly seasons. It just doesn't make any sense. If the president had not attended the school, that would have made a whole lot of sense. But having attended, and the university having come out to say, yes, he attended, and the university coming out to say, we issued out the diploma, and we don't have that on file because we gave it to him. It's not just him, it's the other students too. And then a classmate, someone who attended the university the same time that he did and studied the same program, deposed to an affidavit and said, I knew him, we were in the same class, we took the same courses, and we participated in a very tightly contested election, and he won. The same person who won, who defeated me, is the person who's the president of Nigeria today. I mean, one would have thought that would be the end of the matter. But now they're saying that they want to go to the Supreme Court to introduce fresh evidence. I mean, the question that should agitate the minds of lawyers, especially those who are very familiar with litigation regarding election petitions. First of all, you're going to the Supreme Court to do exactly what? To introduce fresh evidence. First of all, at least I know two of the lawyers representing Allah Waziri about Atiku Abubakar. I don't know them personally, but professionally. They are two of the finest lawyers that you find in the person of Chief Chris Uche and Mr. Iyitayo Jegede, SAN. I mean, these are very serious, highly knowledgeable lawyers. Chief Chris Uche was quoted by the Court of Appeal in their decision. If you look at pages 573 to 575, I believe, Chief Chris Uche wrote a foreword in respect of a book titled Modern Nigerian Election Petitions and Appeals Law. It was published in 2017 by one Kelechi Peter Ikoroga. Chief Uche, a very fine lawyer, wrote in there that, and it was quoted in that judgment, that at the time you are filing your petition for purposes of election matters, that is when you put in all that you need to put in. You file everything along. You file your petition, you file your witness statement on oath, and then you stipulate the list of documents that you intend to rely on in proving your case. And in some cases, you even front load. But certainly, if you don't front load that particular evidence, facts relating to it and the list of the evidence that you're going to rely on must be stated. This was not done. This was not done. If you look at the petition, they had four, the petition was founded on 4 grounds. Now, they're talking about the failure of the president to secure 25% of votes in Abuja, overvoting, the failure of INEC to upload results, and D, that the president was not qualified to contest the election. That was it. Now, in the written witness statement in support, none of these, said anything about D.
Mr. Falabi?
Yes.
Let's speak these issues one after the other. So the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Illinois ordered the CSU to release the academic record of President Tinubu. But for the sake of clarity, what sort of documents were released by the university?
Virtually everything that was in the file. That was everything that was given to them. Everything that was in the file. They got everything that was there. That's it. All of his grades, his transcripts, everything.
Well, if you say everything, what and what documents were released? Please be specific.
Okay. Number one, they released the transcripts, which showed clearly that he took courses from the school and that he graduated. His transcript from the junior college I attended, Southwest College, was equally released and handed over to them. His application letter, wherein he checked off the box mail, was released. His letter of admission, wherein he checked off the box, wherein it was addressed as Mr. Tinubu, was also released to them. So, and also they also gave them samples of diplomas that they issued, some of which they issued around about the same time. So those are the things that they handed over to Alhaji Abubakar's lawyers in Chicago.
All right. But many were taken aback by the president's lawyers' appeal to the court that releasing his academic record will damage him irreparably. Why did they say this to the court?
Oh, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to comment on that. You see, that was a lawyer's language, as legalese. Now, any lawyer that you speak to who's a practitioner will tell you that when you approach the court of law to get interlocutory reliefs, that is, after someone gets a judgment or a ruling against you and you want to appeal, so you can go to court and say, we want a stay of execution, meaning don't do that thing before this appeal or this review, as in this case, is done. So essentially, one of the things that you have to satisfy the court with is this. You have to tell the court that, look, Your Honor, if you go ahead and you allow these documents to be released now, irreparable harm would have been done. What does that mean in everyday language? It means that once the genie is out of the bottle, you can't put it back. Now, if you say the decision, we contested that based on FERPA laws, Federal Educational Rights and Privacy Act, that a student is entitled to protection, that a student's records are entitled to protection. That was what we maintained. I have 3 kids here. 1 has graduated college and 2 are still in college. I don't have access to their records. I can't go to their registrar and say, hey, I'm paying tuition, turn these things over to me. No, I can't do it. I can't do that. So we maintained that under FERPA, the president is entitled to privacy to his records unless he elects to release them. So the magistrate judge Gilbert, having ordered that the documents be released within 48 hours, we're just a few hours away from reaching the time frame. So we went to Judge Maldonado and said, Your Honor, put a stop to the execution of this order. Because if you don't, and these records are released, then there will be no basis for you, there will be nothing for you to review anymore. That was all that we meant by that. Not irreparable harm as in being shot or being killed or, no. It's a legal term. I mean, you must, if you're asking for a stay, you have to demonstrate that if this order is not granted, then, Your Honor, there will be nothing before you to review. And the judge listened to us and granted that order. The judge said, yes, the judge agreed with us that if I don't stay the execution of the order of Magistrate Judge Gilbert, and these documents are released right now, if you come back to me, then there will be nothing for me to preside over. There will be nothing for me to be spent. It will be spent. So that was what that was the context in which it was used. And lawyers do that every single day in both jurisdictions. I mean, it's done in Nigeria, once it's a common law country. It's done in America. It's just a requirement of the law. I mean, it's just, for example, now, let me give you a practical example. I mean, you go to court, you have a land case, someone is building on you, someone is about to build on your land. And then you go to court and say, my lord, I need you to stop this individual from building on my land. And you say, one of the things that will happen is if he's not stopped, irreparable harm will be done to me. What do you mean in that context? The land, the topography will be changed. And maybe you wanted to build a bungalow. That was your plan. Right. And then the person, the adversary, now built something else. So that was the context. There was no physical, no threat to life or anything.
So,
like
Mr. Afolabi, I asked that question because there are those who thought his lawyers said that just to stop Atiku from achieving his aim, or the lawyers have anything to hide.
Absolutely not. I mean, the lawyers did what the law enjoins them to do. It happens every single day. Once you bring an interlocutory application, that's the first thing you demonstrate. Irreparable harm will be done. The nomenclature will be changed. The narrative will be changed unless this is put in place. And the judge did exactly that. She put a stay and said, okay, come back and address me, which we did. Ultimately, she agreed with Magistrate Judge Gilbert and released the document. And at that point in time, we could have appealed. There was not an appeal. Magistrate Judge Gilbert did what he had no powers to do in law. Being a magistrate judge, he could not have made a dispositive order without running it by the supervising judge. And she agreed with us on that too. And that was why she had a de novo. We started all over again. So, I mean, people just took that and ran with it. You know, that took it completely out of context. So we said, put a stop, stay, and it was granted because it was the right thing to do. There's this thing called res, R-E-S. Lawyers will tell you, if you don't grant a stay, the res will be destroyed and irreparable harm will be done. That was all that we did. There was nothing right. Thank you.
So one of Atiku's requests was the release of a copy of the diplomas issued in 1997, and the university said they matched the format of the replacements dated June 27, 1997. Why is there so much contention about its authenticity?
You see, the way that I see it, as I said earlier, there's nothing there. There's nothing, and his lawyers know. These are fine lawyers. I can tell you that for free. There's nothing there. I mean, someone graduated. He went to school. The school said he did graduate. A classmate said he did graduate. The school said, we have given him the diploma. Whatever he elects to do with it, that's on him. We don't have a copy of it. Can you even speak to a document that you don't have a copy of? You cannot in law. Alhaji Abubakar's lawyers, they know this. They are fine lawyers. You can't speak to a document that is not your person. Did you create it, Mr. Westerberg? No, it was created before I got there. Did you hand it over to him? No, it was handed over to him before I got there. So what was he supposed to say? Outside of, okay, he was presented with a copy, he saw it, and he said, okay, yes, this matches some others that were not previously picked up. Look at them. They're the same format. I mean, initially, the Alhaji Atiku Abubakar's lawyer, his argument in open court was that they were challenging it because there was a misplaced comma. I mean, that got a chuckle out of the judge. Like, really, seriously? Yeah, he said there was a misplaced comma, that it was grammatically incorrect because there was a misplaced comma. I didn't hear him say that again when other versions were produced. Other versions were placed the same way. So it is just a question of chasing shadows. I mean, honestly, I will not preempt the Supreme Court of Nigeria, but again, the laws are very, very, very clear, very, very, very clear. And as I said, Chief Chris Uche is on record as having written, and he relied on decisions of the Supreme Court, that this is the law and you cannot do otherwise. And truly, he was right, because that is what the law says. And even leaving that tonight, let's address the merit, please, for a minute. You are alleging forgery. How do you prove forgery? You must plead forgery, and you must plead particulars of forgery. You have to plead particulars of forgery, and you have to prove it. So how do you in your petition, there was not a single mention of CSU, not a single mention of CSU in the petition. You can take a look, it's a public document. Now, you didn't say anything about Chicago State University. You didn't say anything about forgery.
All right. Mr. Afolabi, let's take a break. All right, let's take a break. I've been speaking with President Bola Tinubu's lawyer, Wole Afolabi, for discussion on Atiku Abubakar versus President Tinubu and all of the facts surrounding the Chicago certificate matter. When we return, we will dig deeper. Stay with us.
Every major news story is with many perspectives and layered with different levels of impact.
Hello. What time did this happen? We will be right there.
At TVC News, we follow the big and major news, gathering the facts, witnessing the outcome.
I am here live at the aftermath of the approval of the new national minimum wage.
We are TV Station of the Year, not just for breaking news, but for being first, fair and accurate. TVC News, first with breaking news.
Welcome back to Politics Tonight, and this evening we're discussing Atiku Abubakar versus President Tinubu and the facts of the Chicago certificate matter with the president's lawyer, President Bola Tinubu's lawyer, Wole Afolabi. Mr. Afolabi, before we went on that break, you were making a point. Please kindly go on with your submission.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Now, when you make allegations of crime, as Alhaji Atiku Abubakar is making, in this case, even if it's a civil matter, the standard of proof required, mandated by the law, is proof beyond reasonable doubt. The same standard of proof as if it were a criminal proceedings. Now, how do you prove beyond reasonable doubt that the certificate submitted to INEC was forged? The issuing authority came forward to say, yes, we issued him a certificate. No, we don't have a copy of what was issued, because our practice is we don't keep copies of what we had issued out. We only retain those that had not been collected. I mean, there are a number of authorities. I mean, I think the same thing happened in APC and Obaseki when allegations were made that Governor Obaseki did not attend the University of Ibadan. The registrar of the school was summoned, and the registrar of the school said, yes, he attended the school. And of course, the outcome of the case was all too predictable, all the way from the High Court to the Court of Appeal to the Supreme Court. Governor Obaseki won. So why would there be any exception in this instance? You are making allegations, serious allegations, but you did not do it the proper way. And he should be educated on that. I can tell he's agitated. You know, hey, you don't run for president 5 times for the heck of it. I mean, you do so because you desperately want it. But you have to go through the stipulated ways of making it happen. And if I may, I know I'm not a political commentator. I mean, I'm a lawyer. But be that as it may, I mean, one can easily say that the time for calling on Governor Obi, the time for calling on Governor Rabi Musa Kwankwaso is not now. It was before elections were held. I mean, the PDP has an umbrella. You should have brought in more people under the umbrella and not allow people like Wike, whom you said they couldn't move a finger. People like Governor Makinde, you should have courted them as a seasoned politician. You should, the more the merrier. That's what you should have done. You know, this is no time to call them to join you in doing exactly what. I mean, these are very serious allegations, and times are perilous. I mean, our leaders, statesmen, they need to speak as such. This is no time to get people fired up against the government. I mean, what I saw was a very much Trumpian approach. You know, like Donald Trump going about saying, "Oh, the election was stolen. I did not win the election." What has Mr. Trump gotten out of that? I'll tell you what, 4 indictments. 4 indictments. And he's about to lose his business empire in the state of New York now. He and his sons, they just got convicted of fraud. And now what is going on now is winding up of the processes. He thought he was going to destroy the country. But he's ended up, in my opinion, destroying himself. I mean, this country is too big for any one man to say, if things don't go my way, let it go up or up in flames. And I saw the irony again. I'm not a political commentator, but I just have to go there. I saw the irony in the name of Chief Gani Fahimi, SAN. May God grant him eternal rest. His name being invoked. I would shudder to think that Chief Gani Fahimi would have moved a bit in his grave. Like, really? Since when did we become co-operators? Since when did we become partners? I mean, and then you are talking about the court system in America, in Chicago, being fair, doing this, doing that. But we didn't hear that in the William Jefferson saga. We didn't hear that when allegations were made that $40 million were laundered through accounts controlled by Vice President Abubakar Atiku's wife, and that the funds, the proceeds, were used to set up a university. We did not hear all of those. So it should be justice for all seasons. You know, it doesn't matter. It's not when it's convenient. I mean, justice is a two-way street. It's either you say the American justice system is efficient, is good, 2 thumbs up, or you say, hey, 2 thumbs down. You can't approbate and reprobate, as I say. So we have to be careful what we say. And honestly, I expected way more from Vice President Abubakar Atiku. I mean, the time for calling people, pulling them together is over. The game is just over. Let's move on. Let's move on. And he has to know this. He ran 5 times, so he's got to know that. I mean, it has to stop somewhere. It has to end somewhere. Well, I was delighted that he mentioned that once the Supreme Court decides, we'll move on. I hope he will be held to his words and do as stipulated, as he stated. And the beauty of it is, unlike the long-drawn process before the Presidential Election Tribunal, the Supreme Court process is much faster. Everything has to be wrapped up within 60 days of the filing of the notice of appeal. So I think we are in short order of justice. Judgment will be delivered. And of course, we pray it goes in our way. And if it does, we hope that Waziri Abubakar will call on his supporters to join forces with our president. You can only have one president at a time, and we only have one. Join forces with our president to move the nation forward. I mean, this is not a question of looking for trophies. You know, it's a question of, hey, the people have spoken, and loud and clear, and the wishes of the people must be respected. You don't have to go through the length and breadth of the earth just to actualize your your ambition. I mean, Nigeria is greater than any one man's ambition, in my opinion. That's what I have to say.
All right. So the deponent, or as it is, a witness of the court, of the university rather, Carl Westberg, told the court that the diploma or certificates President Tinubu presented to INEC was not like the ones issued by the university in 1979, but more like those produced in the 1990s. What exactly did he mean by this?
Good point. You know, from time to time, he said that the university, when they get a request, you fill out a form, you send it to them. Usually they'll send it out to vendors. So from time to time, if you take a look at the samples that the university presented, you will see that the format were not uniform. There were differences. I mean, styles evolved, along the lines, with years and all of that. So it is the format of what this university is using for the particular year that the request was made and granted that they go by. I mean, if you make a request in 2014, the university doesn't have to go into its archives and look for a certificate, a sample from 1979. No, it just doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. It just does not. It just does not. Yeah.
All right. Mr. Falabi, the school says that replacements of diploma certificates are printed by vendors. Can you help us throw some light on this?
Yes, it's a division of labor, more or less. As I said earlier, you put in your application. By the way, my son, who graduated college, is yet to collect his, he hasn't picked up his certificate. He has a job already. So he said, hey, I'll pick it up when I have a chance. So that goes to show you how unimportant it is to them here in America. He hasn't picked it up. It's there. So what happens is, if you picked up your certificate and the diploma, you lose it, and you want a replacement to be issued to you, you get a form, you apply, you send it to the school. The school will get in touch with the vendors. They have vendors that they work with. And then what is important is that the information is correct. But even at that, they still make mistakes, which Mr. Westberg alluded to. I mean, there's no perfect human being anywhere. We're not machines. Even machines do make mistakes. So you produce it, the student pays for it, and it's sent back to you. And then the student I just stated now, my son is here to pick up his own. So much the same way, the president did not pick up the one that he applied for subsequently. But he had the one that was issued to him originally, and that was what he submitted to INEC. So that's how it works. The vendor is an outsider. The vendor is not affiliated with the university. It's a business relationship. We give you this to do for us. You do it, we'll pay you, and we'll move on. As simple as that. That's how it works.
All right, then. So there is another issue, and that's the issue of gender being peddled around. But in the new documents released by CSU, President Tinubu was addressed as a Mr. What is responsible for such discrepancies?
Again, Mr. Westberg addressed that. What he said was that, because he was asked, how do you know that President Bola Tinubu is the same person who graduated from this school, in view of the fact that his transcript from the junior college, Southwest University, Richard Delay College, that is what is known as now, the sex was marked to be F. And Mr. Westberg said very clearly that when President Tinubu applied to CSU for admission, he checked off the box, male. When CSU issued its letter of admission to the president, he was addressed as Mr. Tinubu. Now, he said that the courses, because they got the transcript, the courses that the person who studied at Southwest College took were similar to what the president studied at CSU, being accounting. Now, accounting is a tough major. I mean, it's just like someone now. I mean, you wouldn't be doing me any favors now if you grab someone's transcript and the person happened to have studied accounting. And then you say, go do 2 more years so that you get a degree out of it. It's inconceivable. I would never do well. That's a given. And I think people should be able to relate to that. Mm-hmm. So he studied accounting, and that was why, because he had a solid accounting background, that was why it was easy, or relatively easy, for him to attain the highest honor grades possible at CSU. He graduated with honors. I mean, graduating with honors is nothing to sneeze at. He graduated with honors. So if he did not have the background, if it was not him, how could he have been able to build on it? So much so, he graduated with high honors. So they looked at all of those, social security numbers and everything, and they came to one logical conclusion. He's just one person, not two people. He said this on oath. You see, one thing that Americans don't do, which people should know, is this. No American who is not benefiting from you in any way, shape, or form, like maybe your wife or your dad or whatever, would take the fall for you. Mr. Westbrook, knew the implication of what he was doing. If it's found out that he lied, he will be going to jail. That's the clear implication. Do you think an American who has no relationship, he said he never met the president has never been on the grounds of CSU. What do you think will be the incentive for this man to, under oath, say all of this? There could never have been, other than to speak the truth and to set the record straight. You know, these people were terribly harassed. And when I went to the grounds of CSU to pick up the president's documents from the school, I was harassed by officials of the school. It was a clear case of transferred aggression. I have lived in this country for, what now, 26, 27 years. Not once that anyone called the cops on me. 2 cops were called on me that day. 2. If I had a record, I would have been on my way to jail. They ran my record. Why? Because they said that Nigerians had been harassing them. So not until when I produced evidence to them that I was acting at the behest of the president, that was when they attended to me. Even at that, I was advised not to come to campus. Even at that, and Mr. Westberg, he was one of the people who was hostile to me. He was not as hostile as others, but all of the staff. Because why? They've had it up to here from Nigerians.
Okay.
They've had it
so,
up to here.
Mr. Falabi, now some lawyers have said that there are circumstances in which the Supreme Court can admit fresh evidence. What are those circumstances? And does it really relate to electoral matters?
All right. I would answer that firstly by saying that the evidence that they have, what is considered nothing bogus. I mean, it's, as I said earlier, you can't do anything with this. That is on the merit. Now, speaking on what the law states, what the law stipulates, when you bring, if your matter is a general civil appeal, general civil appeal, there are circumstances under which you can introduce new evidence, and very limited, very narrow. And one of such is that the evidence that you are trying to introduce at the time that you instituted your action was otherwise not available. That is one exception that you can use to get your documents in. Now, that is for general civil litigation. Now, even using that standard, which is, I mean, a much lower threshold than what they're going to contend with when they go to court. even if using that standard, could anyone say that at the time that this petition was filed in March 2023, that the information was not available? The president filed his papers with INEC in June 2022. Elections were held February 2023. You approached the tribunal in March 2023. You then waited until August before you approached an American court and then say, oh, let me have this because this is going to help me win my case, when they knew fully well that they cannot put it to any use. You know, this is the worst that they can get out of it.
All right.
They can't get it.
All right. So you're saying there is no damage this new evidence can do to the case at the Supreme Court?
You see, I'm reluctant to preempt my lords of the Supreme Court, but because I would only speak on it because it has not been filed. If it had been filed and it's before my lords, I would have kept my mouth shut. So it's still, as of right now, it's still very much an academic exercise. So I can comment on it. You see, there is, if you look at the provisions of the Electoral Act, there is an express provision in the first schedule, I believe is paragraph 4(5) C of the Electoral Act. The word used is shall. Shall in law is taken to be mandatory, must be done. The word employed says that at the time that you are filing your petition, you must attach to your petition the list of documents, amongst others, the list of documents that you intend to rely on. And efforts have been made. I mean, there are a plethora of decisions on this that you just cannot. The door is shut permanently. It's over with. You can't bring it in. You cannot. Once you fail to bring it in, I mean, I'm talking about the stricter provisions of the Electoral Act now. Once you fail to get it in, at the time you commenced your action, within 21 days of your occurrence of action. All right.
So how confident are you that your clients will still win at the apex court?
You know, again, there is a pending appeal, and it will be totally disrespectful of my lords to speak as if I have an insight into their minds. All that I can say is that President Bola Tinubu, based on the laws and the decisions of the Supreme Court, is standing on a strong wicket. That's all that I can say.
All right. So, I mean, finally, before I let you go, Atiku says this is a moral issue, while some are already calling for the president to resign. What is the correlation between law and morality?
Well, that's an interesting question. I mean, first of all, we would have to ask, what issue of morality are they talking about? We don't know. You have to educate us. What issue of moral, on what basis, on what grounds? Why should he resign? So what becomes of those who believed in him and voted for him? It's a matter of conviction. I mean, a president doesn't get to office on the strength of his own powers. Someone gets to office on the strength of the votes that he gets from his supporters. You know, you go through a vigorous campaign. I mean, you go through primaries and whatnot, and then you get there. Some people had invested their hopes, you know, expectations are high, and sacrifice a lot to cast their vote. You know, people travel out of convenient places where they are to distant and remote places to go and vote for their candidates. And then the candidate gets to office and says, I'm relinquishing this. Why would he? If there's a basis for it, yes, we say, okay, there's a basis for it. But on what ground? What is the basis? What morality? First of all, we have to say what morality. And then secondly, we'll say, who's talking about morality? Who's talking about morality? I mean, come on, let's put it on an imaginary scale and see where it tilts. I mean, you should be careful. I mean, Anyone who lives in a glass house, I was told, you're not supposed. It won't be wise of you to be throwing stones. It doesn't lie in their mouth to say that. Not at all. No basis for it at all. None. There's no basis. No. And I trust the president is not going anywhere. Why would he? He's known to be a fighter. He's been a fighter all of his life. So we are here, and we're expecting to push on. We're expecting to keep pushing. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Wale Afolabi, President Bola Tinubu's lawyer. Thank you so much as we discuss Atiku Abubakar versus President Tinubu and the facts of the Chicago certificate matter. Thank you so much for coming on Politics Tonight and especially helping us get some clarity regarding this issue. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Very much.